helping people passionate about planning for their future rise above investment myths to build real wealth.
Isn't that really just common sense financial advice?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
It's Only Money with Scott Brown from Edgewater Family Wealth.
Good and loud for our man, Scott Brown.
Yeah, baby. Save money.
Let me tell you what, you know how you make money? You do work while you're on vacation. This guy is committed to the segment, except for last week. But
I had just gotten off the plane.
I told Jack, I said, Scott's not going to make it today. He's literally, I think, in the car on the way to his place up in Colorado for a little getaway with the fam. But good to have you this week, buddy. How's things? How's travel?
Travel's awesome, man. It's I'm in a beautiful part of the country. Colorado is probably my second favorite state to visit.
Yeah, and did you guys get a lot? Were you there did the snow come through right before you got there, or is it currently happening?
So there was a big dump. I think they got about 2 feet about the week before I got here, and it's been kind of drizzling on us, probably 7 or 8 inches, but we're fixing to get like 3 feet in the next week or so.
Yeah, it's going to be nasty out there. Like the high here in Orlando next Wednesday is 49 degrees. Mm-hmm. So we have a number of fronts coming through this time of year for sure. You had a good New Year, good holidays, everything like that was fine with you?
Yeah, man. I think I was in bed at 10:30. So, they should have a ball. Like, considering the demographics of the world and this country, everybody's aging. The fastest growing age group is between the ages of 65 and 85. They should really start dropping the ball about 7:30.
West Coast time here on the East Coast?
Yeah.
I like that. Very good.
I don't care. Wherever you are, 7:30, 8 o'clock, you're in bed, you're good to go.
Well, get into the segment. It's funny, Jack and I were talking before the show about books on finances because we know you were calling in today. Did he also give you The Millionaire Next Door?
No. He gave you The Millionaire Next Door.
It's so funny. The book that you gave me, The Millionaire Next Door, over the holidays, as I was kind of scrolling through my social and paying attention to stuff or whatever, every one of these memes that would come up and say, these are the 5 financial books you have to read to change your life. And then every one of those 5 lists, every single one of them, The Millionaire Next Door showed up on that list. And of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Influence People and stuff like that. Those would show up, but that one book kept showing up. So Jack and I both have committed to start reading it this weekend.
Well, I can't, people are so sick of me talking about this stupid book, but I read it, it changed. I say there's a couple of books that changed my life. That was one of them. I think I read it when I was 25, maybe, or 26. And it's the reason I bought a house and I lived in that same little cottage, that same little College Park bungalow to this day. It kind of changed the way I thought about money. It kind of changed the way I thought about how I interacted with money. It kind of changed the way I thought money could be used as a tool and hopefully not a tool to bury yourself with. That book, The E-Myth, which is more of an entrepreneurial book, and then Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude was one of those. And of course, Win Friends and Influence People was a book I read at 21 that kind of changed the way I interacted and communicated with other people, which, by the way, I've been up here in Colorado for about 10 days, and I always pay attention to how young people communicate. And some young people are really, really good at communication. They're just instantly friendly. They're happy to see you. What can I do for you? How can I help you? They make you feel good about yourself, which I think is the number one thing young people need to understand about communication, is when you're communicating with somebody, whether it's in business or in life, if you want to be liked, if you want to be respected, it's how you make the other person feel about themselves, not about you. Your job isn't to sell them on you. It's people like to see people who make them feel good about themselves.
Absolutely.
And the point I'm very slowly coming to is that here in Colorado, they're really good at that in the ski industry.
Yeah, it's super serve the customer.
Yeah. It's just, again, when you're interacting with someone, especially if you want their money, first of all, if you want them to pay you, you want them to respect you, it's not, you don't sell yourself. Don't talk about you and how great you are and all the wonderful things you're going to do. It's how you make them feel about themselves.
Right.
And that is true. That's what advertising is about. It's about your emotions, of how drinking a Coke or driving a Ford makes you feel, buying an Apple phone, how it makes you feel about yourself.
Very cool. I can't wait to read it, buddy, and learn all those great lessons as well. I always love getting new insights on life all the time, and I really look forward to it. You sent us a text saying, usually every week we'll get a little text about what we're going to talk about, and I kind of understand this one, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to you explaining it. Expected emotional outcome versus expected material outcome, and why busy is a disease. Let's start with the first one there. Expected emotional outcome versus expected material outcome. It kind of seems self-explanatory.
Yeah. I mean, it is to some degree. You know, our brains are an interesting thing, in so much that, you know, our frontal cerebral cortex kind of absorbs information and pushes it to the basal ganglia, which the basal ganglia is kind of the middle part of the brain. That's kind of emotional. That's your emotional. Like the cortex takes everything in, shoots a bunch of emotions, thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, good ideas, bad ideas. And the basal ganglia is like cutting the ones away that it doesn't like, the ones that it doesn't make it feel good. And what people tend to do is they make decisions. Sometimes I'm trying to think of an example. An example would be somebody who says, I should lose some weight. And they know the material outcome of eating less. The material outcome is that they will lose weight and be more healthy. But their emotions, their basal ganglia says, yes, but I like cookies. and ultimately that's an emotional decision. How are those cookies going to make me feel immediately,
right,
versus the material outcome of being more healthy and thinner long term? And people do that with investments. You know, you might have a financial advisor, for example, and maybe you're just not satisfied with them. Maybe for whatever your criteria is, you're not satisfied with them, and you know the material outcome of changing advisors would probably be better when you find somebody that you interact or communicate with better. But that's the material outcome. The emotional outcome is, I have to tell this person that I've been working with for 10 years that I'm doing something different.
Right.
And the basal ganglia will say, that's going to suck. Don't do that.
And you have to kind of fight through that. That's the whole idea, because I have to tell you, I'm dying to buy a pair of matching jet skis right now, but but I know what a terrible decision that is, but it's going to make me feel good come spring. I'm joking.
Yeah, what's the material outcome, right? I mean,
it's depreciation.
The material outcome
is massive depreciation is exactly what it is. That's a kind of interesting. You know, you and I talk about Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger quite a bit. You know, God rest his soul, Munger passed here recently, but we talk about how that wisdom is almost kind of rocking chair like. It almost is so simple that people believe you're kind of screwing with them because it's so easy. And, you know, and we've talked about this quite often about how people overcomplicate that and how you automatically start looking at the output when you make the investment rather than sticking the 10 grand in there, or 5 grand or 1,000 or whatever you can afford. And you start automatically thinking about what it's going to do later down the road rather than really concentrating on doing more of that. You put the kind of the cart before the horse scenario. That happens a lot in your business.
Yeah, I'm again getting back to how your brain operates, your basal ganglia, which is your emotion center. It doesn't like that. It doesn't. We've talked about this. We're not really wired as human beings. We're, you know, the evolution of technology and money and currency and the way we do business or economics has changed dramatically in the last 100 years, and probably faster in the last 100 years or 150 years than it did all of mankind's history prior to that. So our brains are kind of not caught up with that. They're not caught up with the idea of abundance, because again, if you killed an animal, you killed a deer, there was no means for storing that deer prior to the last, 120 years or so, right? There was no way to keep that meat, so you ate it. If you found good water that you could drink, you drank it. There was no idea that I need to save this or prepare for a situation down the road. We are wired emotionally to act in a way that is not in our best long-term interest, because frankly, 200, 400, 700 years ago, there was no long-term interest, right?
31 was long-term.
Yes, for sure. So again, we're not built for that.
Well, let's move on to this next one, because I have to tell you, I find this painfully interesting, because I probably at one point in my life fell into this why busy is a disease. Now, it's funny because I think the common answer, like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? Oh, I've just been real busy. Been busy. You know, you say that a lot. Sometimes it's just a cop-out. Sometimes you are genuinely busy and don't seem to have any time. I'll tell you where I am right now. It's been so bad for me. I have like a bunch of stuff I was supposed to return for Christmas, Like it's 2 weeks out now. I haven't even thought about it. Like zero time, not even a 2-hour block of time to take care of these things I need to take care of. And I'm time limited on this stuff, but it just happens all the time. Why is being busy a disease?
Well, it's a disease for people who busy is kind of a way to shroud. It doesn't set off your lazy alarm. If you say, well, I'm not getting the thing I want to get done, you can say it's because I'm busy. It's not because you're lazy, because that's what you're telling yourself. It's because I'm busy, right? So like somebody, oftentimes people, when I talk about, I'm a workout guy. I've been that way my whole life, so it's just a habit I have. I'm not a hero for it. It's just something I've always done. But when I talk to people about working out, I have buddies all the time to say, I'm too busy. I don't have time. I'm like, listen, sometimes I go to the gym and I work out at home, but sometimes I go into my gym, which is my garage. And some days I'll work out for 15 minutes and I'll quit. I'm just like, I'm not feeling it today. But I did that 15 minutes. Now, sometimes before I go do that 15 or 20 or 30-minute workout, I'll walk around the house. I'll look for something to clean. I'll go outside and make sure the shed's okay. Shed's still here.
Anything to create an excuse not to go into the garage? Is that what we're getting to?
Well, because, Jim, I'm busy. I'm busy doing things. Right?
So is this a metaphor for like basically, when you say you're busy, it's just basically you putting a wall in front of things that you know you need to do that you really don't want to do? Is that the entire thing?
Well, think about it from an employer or an employee standpoint. Sometimes you'll talk to somebody who's there at work and they're behind on a deadline, which everybody's always behind on a deadline. You were supposed to have this thing done. Yeah, but I've been busy. Well, what have you been busy doing? Well, the paper clips weren't really lined up right. And, they have 17 different things that they did that have what they're doing. It's avoidance behavior. And the reason they say they're busy is because they don't want to say they didn't want to do it or they're lazy. Right. And that's true. That's true of even of investing or saving. It's, I'm going to invest as soon as, the sun aligns with the moon and the thing happens and I mow the lawn and then I got to talk to my grandma and they got a million reasons why they can't invest but again, what they'll put in front of that rather than saying they're not disciplined or they're lazy is that they are busy. And that is, as an employer, and which I am, I have many employees. Sometimes I'll be working with someone and I'll say, well, why didn't you do that thing for the client? Or why didn't you make that phone call? Like, I had to call the home office because the paper wasn't the right color and the font was off. And it's like they're avoiding the harder, more uncomfortable task and covering it in busy.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I'm gonna be honest with you, straight up. I'm just straight up guilty of that. I do it like I started my workout program yesterday, and it was just very simple stuff, just some sit-ups and push-ups to get my body acclimated to getting back into the gym and getting myself in shape. I hit that age, 55 years old. I was like, man, I gotta really start kind of pumping this up. And already I'm doing that exact same thing rather than just walking up there and doing it, knocking it out. And the funny thing is like I've been taking the stairs coming up since the new year. And at the top of the stairs, I'm breathing hard, but it feels amazing. But even though it feels good, it's a pain in the ass, and I still have to fight that urge not to go up those stairs every day. Ross has been doing it for a year.
Yeah, that was my New Year resolution last year, and now I'm happy to find out that you're pro stairs.
Yeah, buddy, and here's what I do. The first 3 floors, I just do the single stair, but that last floor, when I'm already tired, I skip a step.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, that'll kill you. Oh, man, my prostate almost fell out, Scott.
Just a heads up, it took me 9 months for me not to feel winded going up those, I think it's 8 flights of stairs.
Well, it's edgewaterfamilywealth.com. Scott has sage advice for all of you guys, regardless of your financial output, regardless of how much you make. Somebody just said, hey, we need to, create an investment program for lower income employees kind of thing. And I'm like, well, that's the big problem is everybody automatically believes you're going to have 8 or 10 or 12 or 20 or 50 grand to make money because they're not looking at it properly. They're looking at making money in 2 years, 5 years, whatever. You have to make a bigger commitment than that, and you have to be willing to kind of just sit on it for a while. Yeah, Ross?
Scott, I was curious, how often do you run into people, your clients, that go, hey, this is how much money I make, and it's a solid number, and then you look at where they're living, and you go, but your upkeep, you could be saving so much money, but because of your salary, you convinced yourself that you deserve or you can afford this bigger house, even though you can afford it.
That's the trap he talks about all the time.
But now, I mean, how does someone officially live by their financial means? Where's that code or book?
There is a percentage of that. I mean, he can explain it. Have you ever heard the term house poor?
House poor.
Yeah, house poor is a term that you've used for years. You never want to be house poor. You never want your home to represent a larger, was it, Scott, 25% of your income? Like your total output?
Yeah, I think that's a fair. I mean, there's no exact science here, but 25 or 30% is probably pushing it. But the problem is the lifestyle extension, right? People will extend their lifestyles to meet their income and just beyond. It's well documented that, people will buy as much house in as fancy a neighborhood as they can. The problem is, if you go to a neighborhood like College Park or even some parts of Maitland and Winter Park and other neighborhoods that are more older established neighborhoods, you're going to find people, this is the millionaire next door. The average millionaire next door, their home is paid for, number one. Number two, they live in a house that is probably worth a quarter to a fifth of what they would qualify to buy in terms of a mortgage. So in other words, a person who makes $100,000 a year might qualify for $500,000 or $600,000 mortgage. But a millionaire who might make $600,000 or $800,000 will still live in terms of this book, will still live in a $300,000 or $400,000 house. They'll be wealthier than all their neighbors, and none of the neighbors will know.
No, that's Warren Buffett to a T. That is literally Warren Buffett has lived in the same exact ranch house with no security, no nothing, in a regular neighborhood, driven the same like Lincoln, I think he drives, or Chrysler or whatever, forever. He has the same suits. He doesn't buy expensive suits. Making money is like a game for him. It's almost annoying. He needs a Lambo and a yacht.
Yeah. He still flies private though. Just nobody knows that.
Yeah, very good.
He needs to hang out with more rappers.
Hey, are you a straight skier or do you do a little snowboarding as well?
So I went through my snowboard phase. I skied for years. This is like our 20th year going skiing with the kids and everything. And I started out skiing as a young man, and then snowboards came. And about 10 years ago, I decided I was going to be a snowboarder because that's cool. And so I did that for about 4 years, broke a bunch of ribs, smashed my tailbone, and decided, you know what, snowboarding's not for me. So I went back to skiing the last couple of years. And I don't know if you snowboard or you ski, but if you snowboard, you realize that you don't come out of it. Like if you are on a snowboard and you go over, you're going over and you're going straight over on your back.
Right.
With skis, you can kind of like shed them and flip around and spin before you crash. And I'm now subscribing to that philosophy.
Are you a black diamond slope guy, or are you like Jim and find the green slopes and just cruise?
I'm a cruiser now. In my stupid youth, I did some black diamonds. I've never been a great skier, but I was young and stupid and stronger than I am today and more resilient. So I did some black diamonds, but now I am find me a nice blue or two.
That's right.
Find me a couple greens that are quick and point me to the bar.
That's right. Exactly. You just cruise around. Like I wind up snowplowing all the way down, going really slow, just enjoying the views. I never understood everybody just like hauling ass down there. I'm like, man, it's beautiful out here. Mm-hmm. But if you're from Florida and that's all you get to see occasionally, I mean, I want to take it all in. But
it's that elevation.
Agreed. Still a lot of fun though, man. Well,
Is
Scott,
that a mountain?
Oh yeah, exactly. Am I running down this? Scott, thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. Calling us on vacation. Again, that's EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com. Do you have any seminars coming up?
We will in February. We'll get back to you on that one. But make sure if you're looking for a financial advisor, you pull down our I Got a Guy financial advisor segment where you can just put in your email and whatever, and we'll send you a free guide on how to choose a financial advisor at EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com.
That's right. And the good thing is it doesn't even have to be you, right?
No, it absolutely does not have to be. Most of the time, it's not me.
But the cool thing is you do give people advice where they can actually make good decisions from themselves just based on good information, and we appreciate that very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
You guys give it up for Scott Brown.
Yeah, baby, save money.